Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of RE Radar. Once again, I'm your host and realtor, Nathan Mathisen. And what RE Radar is all about is digging into the stories, trends, and ideas that are shaping the real estate world. So, without further ado, let's jump right into today's topic. And what we're going to be talking about is something that's showing up more and more in conversations lately, and that is co buying. And I'm talking about teaming up with friends, family, or even trusted partners to buy a home together. And it might sound a little unconventional, but it is actually becoming one of the smartest and fastest growing ways to get into home ownership today. So in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down why this trend is taking off, how it actually works, what to watch out for, and what it looks like when it's done correctly. So let's dive into that. First off, why is it becoming more and more popular? And I think it comes down to a couple of big things, and that is affordability and access. You've got higher interest rates the last couple of years, home prices, and a tight inventory. A lot of buyers, especially younger ones, realize that buying solo just isn't within reach in a reasonable time frame for them. So if they want to buy sooner on in their life, they're going to have to do it with someone else. According to a 2025 report from CoBuy, there are more than 61 million Americans who co-own a home with someone who isn't their spouse. That's nearly 20% of the population. And Gen Z, they are leading the charge with they're about 78% more likely than millennials to consider co-buying a home. So what used to sound kind of alternative is now just practical. Younger buyers don't necessarily see owning with a friend or siblings as weird. They see it as teamwork, as a way to build equity and build wealth together rather than waiting around for perfect timing or for the perfect partner in terms of spouse. And honestly, it makes sense. Housing has always evolved with culture, and right now we're in that evolution moment in society. So, how does it actually work though? Let's talk about the mechanics a little bit. Now, there's no one size fits all setup here with co-buying. There are a few different legal structures for you to use and lean on depending on what you need and the style. The first one I'm going to touch on is tenants in common, often shortened to TIC. That means each person owns a specific percentage of the property, and it doesn't have to be an equal share. One person might own 60%, while the other owns 40%. And either owner can sell their share if they want to. Next, there's the joint tenancy. That's usually going to be equal ownership. And so if it's two people, it's 50-50, three people, 33% each, whatever it is. And if one owner passes away, their share automatically will go to the surviving owner or owners. And then there's the LLC route, where you form a limited liability company and the LLC owns the property and each person owns a membership share in the company. The setup is a great way if you want legal protection or if you're buying something like a vacation home or investment property. There are even new platforms out there that are based on co-ownership models. Companies like CoBuy, Nestimate, or Paradigm that specialize in helping groups structure and manage co-ownership legally and financially. The key is this. It's not just let's both pay the mortgage, it's actually owning the property together, which means the rights, the decisions, and the responsibilities are all shared as well. And that is where things can get tricky if you do not plan for it. So you're going to need to plan for it. Before we get into that, though, let's hit on a few of the positives, and there actually are quite a few of them, I feel. Co-buying, it lets people get into the market sooner. If you're splitting the down payment, mortgage, taxes, and maintenance, suddenly that unaffordable house might actually be within reach. It can also be a great way to build equity faster. Instead of renting for 5 more years while you save for a solo down payment, you start building that wealth now, and maybe later on, you can use that equity to buy your own place. Another advantage, you can buy better. Maybe you and your friend can afford a place with a yard or in a better neighborhood or in an area that just has better rental potential for down the road. Now, another positive is that you're also actually sharing that risk with someone else. Things like repairs or unexpected expenses, it doesn't just fall on your shoulders. There's multiple people that will be responsible for that. So done right, co-buying, it's not just about the affordability. It is a creative wealth building move. Now, some of the risks, because of course there's going to be risks, it's not all sunshines and buttercups out there for co-buying. When you mix money and real estate and relationships, things can get complicated fast. So one of those big risks, probably the biggest risk, just is the idea of conflict. What happens if one person wants to sell and the other doesn't? Or if one person wants to do the renovation and the other person doesn't think it's worth it, thinks it's a waste of money. If you don't have a clear structure written out and a written agreement, those disagreements can blow up. So another issue could be unequal contributions. If one person puts in more for the down payment or covers more of the bills, how do you handle that? Does that person get a bigger ownership share? Do they get reimbursed later? You have to define all these terms and set aside the rules early on, right up front when you're making this purchase. You then also have to think about exit planning. What happens if one of the owners needs to move? Or what if they need money quickly? So what can you do? You can't just Venmo them their half. That's why every co-ownership setup needs to include exit rules. Who gets the right of first refusal? How do you determine fair value? What happens if the remaining owner can't buy the others out? And then, of course, there are legal and tax considerations to be had. Each ownership type has different ones, different implications for capital gains, liabilities, and inheritance. So it is crucial to involve a real estate attorney and probably a CPA before finalizing anything with these contracts. The short version is co-buying can be amazing, but you can't just wing it. You can't just one day wake up, text your buddy, say, hey, let's buy this place. And the next day you're going to be set up, boom, buying it. And it's all going to be sunshine and buttercups, like I said before. You're going to want to plan it out and make sure there's the right contracts and rules in place for each other to follow. So how do you do it right? Let's go through some practical best practices that will make co-buying work for you or give it a better chance at being beneficial for you. First off, like I've been saying, you're going to want to have a written co-ownership agreement. This is a non-negotiable. It's not about mistrust. You could have the greatest trust. This could be your best friend of all time. This could be someone you trust with your life completely. It's just about clarity. So spell out who owns what, how the decisions will be made, how you're going to split costs, and how someone can exit. You want it all written down clearly so it's just out there and it's known going into it. There's no need to assume anything. Number two, you're going to want to decide your ownership percentage early on. So if someone puts in more money, they should have more equity. Don't try to even it out later. That never ends well. Next up, set the clear decision-making rules. Just like the first one with the contract, decide who's going to be the manager of this place, essentially. Who's going to decide on repairs, upgrades, refinancing, or selling? What requires a unanimous vote versus a majority vote? As if maybe there's 5 people in this, will it take everyone to get anything to go through? Or do you just need 3 of the 5 votes for something to get approved and for you guys to make that decision and do it? So set that out early on. Is it going to be unanimous votes or is it going to be majority votes for different things? Next up, like I touched on earlier, you're going to want to have your exit strategy before you buy. Figure out how a buyout would work and how you're going to value the property, how you'll figure that value out. And then also just how much time will people have to decide and make these decisions on selling the property. You're also then going to want to create a joint account likely for property expenses, things like maintenance, taxes, and repairs. That can keep the finances transparent and everyone can see what is going on. And finally, likely the most important step of it all is to communicate. Set reoccurring check-ins, maybe quarterly, maybe once a month, maybe twice a year. Just set up these set dates where you guys are going to get all together and you're going to discuss these finances. You're going to review maintenance. You're going to make these decisions together because co-buying, I mean, it can strengthen relationships if it's built on that good communication. But if it's built on assumptions and it's built on flakiness and it's built on just, oh yeah, he's my buddy, we got this, we'll figure it out, it's likely to fall apart. All of US I've been touching on with these statistics, but if you look at it in a market like Seattle's such a perfect market for the idea of co-buying. as the median home price in Seattle is in that $800,000, $900,000 range. That is quite an expensive home for one person to buy, especially early on in their life. So the idea of co-buying in a place like Seattle is an excellent way for you to get into that home ownership market much earlier than if you were to just be out there solo buying. And there's lots of different options for you to go about co-buying. Maybe you try to co-buy a duplex. Then you each have your own unit essentially, but you're still somewhat together. Or you co-buy a property that has a detached additional dwelling unit. Or you co-buy a place with the idea of building one of those detached additional dwelling units to create more revenue for you or just create more space for you. So there's different ways and different strategies of the property type that you could be co-buying with. And this is something that I feel we're going to see more and more of as prices are staying high and people need to get creative in order to find home buying opportunities in a place or in a market like Seattle. Now, here's the takeaway I say. Co-buying, it's not just some blimp on the road. It is a logical response to the tough market. It's a creative, collaborative way to break into home ownership sooner, build the equity faster, and take control of your financial future with equity building. I remember pulling up a stat for you guys last year where it said basically the median wealth of a homeowner is in the $400,000 range, while the median wealth of a renter was like $11,000. So get into home ownership, tap into that long-term wealth building aspect of it, and you can see the benefits of co-buying with helping you get to that point. And now remember though, it only works if it is structured intentionally. You're going to want to get the legal side of this all correctly. Keep the communication open, protect everyone's interests from day one. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend from before you were even born or whatever it may be. You're going to want to get everything legally written out, great communication, and get the rules straight so that there are no potential conflicts down the road. So if you want to explore what co-buying might look like for you or your situation, or you just want a checklist of what to include on an agreement, reach out to me and I'd be happy to walk you through it. And I'd be happy to chat with you about different options and different avenues for you to go about with maybe what property to go for, what area to buy in, and any of those different questions you might have with co-buying. Feel free to shoot me a message. Always happy to help. Now, that is all the time we have for today's RE Radar. If this episode helped you think differently about real estate, do me a favor, share it with someone who's been talking about buying but feels stuck. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch the next episode where we'll just keep diving into these unique little real estate ideas, trends, housing market, or education pieces on real estate. But until next time, own smarter, not harder. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.